Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating piece of analysis on a problem that is quite literally keeping executives and operational leaders awake at night. I mean, we're all hearing the massive promises of workplace AI, right? How it's going to save us hours, automate our emails, draft our reports, the whole shebang. But here is the core paradox we're tackling today. Why does making tasks faster with AI not automatically mean we're creating actual tangible value for our organizations? Moving from just being efficient to creating true value, well, it's a massive leap. Let's dive right in. Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, the productivity illusion. Second, the 7-step value chain. Third, rethinking release time. Fourth, leadership and service redesign. And finally, sustaining value. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the productivity illusion, and specifically the missing 43 minutes. 43. This refers to the missing 43 minutes. Our source material zeroes in on this really crucial gap between making an individual task faster and actually realizing usable capacity for your organization. Think about it. If an employee saves 43 minutes drafting documents by using AI, where do those minutes actually go? Do they just vanish into thin air? The reality is, often those savings are totally fragmented. They get quickly absorbed by new demands, or honestly, they're just lost in the time it takes to verify that the AI didn't make a mistake. Consider these two entirely different paradigms. On the left, you've got the efficiency mindset. This is where AI makes an organization look super productive because it's churning out a massive volume of stuff. Longer papers, more correspondence, endless meeting transcripts. But here's the catch. A few minutes saved by the person sending an AI-generated email can actually create way more reading time for multiple recipients. It just becomes this flood of unread content. Now, look at the right side, the value mindset. The goal here isn't just generating more content faster, it's about communicating better. It's shorter papers, less duplication, keeping the receiver in mind. The real question isn't how can we create this faster, but actually why are we even creating this at all?
Moving right along to section 2, the 7-step value chain from access to outcome.
If we really want to understand whether AI is delivering a meaningful benefit, we have to track it all the way from a basic software license to a credible, hard result for the organization. This is the rigorous framework you need to do exactly that. Notice there are 7 distinct links in this chain. And you know the old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. If you stop at step 4, just saving time, you've really only achieved efficiency. Massive potential value is left completely on the table. So let's break this down into 2 phases. Phase 1 is getting to efficiency. Step 1 is simply access. Do people even have the licenses and the right permissions? But remember, handing out a license is a prerequisite, not a benefit. Step 2 is adoption. Now, this doesn't mean forcing everyone to use it. It means people actually finding the tool relevant and trustworthy for the work that matters. Step 3 is effective use. Are people applying proportionate verification? Are they protecting sensitive info? And finally, step 4, time released. This is where we measure if the total effort to get the work done actually dropped. And yes, that has to include the time spent prompting, editing, and fact-checking the AI. Now, let's see how this builds into phase 2, creating organizational value. This is where the magic actually happens. Step 5 is capacity redirected. The absolutely crucial point here is that operational managers have to deliberately assemble that release time. Step 6 is outcome improved. That redirected time has to improve something that actually matters, like better patient care, reducing a huge backlog, or genuinely improving staff well-being. Just generating more content, that is not an outcome. And finally, step 7, value evidenced. Can you credibly, with hard data, connect that AI tool to the improved outcome? Which brings us to section 3, rethinking release time. Who actually receives the benefit? Seriously, if AI saves time, who receives the benefit? I want you to really think about that for a second. If we tell colleagues in high-stress organizations like the NHS, for example, that AI is going to save them time, they are going to ask this exact question. Does this save time go towards safer, more thoughtful work? Or does it just translate into an exhausting expectation that they now need to produce even higher output? Organizations have to make deliberate choices about where that released capacity goes. Sure, it could be used for delivering more services, but it can also be used for improving quality, professional development, human connection, making sure your staff actually finish their shifts on time, and building resilience. Let's be real. If AI is viewed just as a mechanism for work intensification, basically a tool to squeeze more juice out of the exact same lemon, trust is going to be destroyed. Your colleagues won't report honestly about what's working and what's not. Finding the right balance has to be a very transparent choice. Section 4. Leadership in service redesign.
AI adoption absolutely needs to be viewed as service redesign. Local leaders have to step up and ask some crucial questions before just throwing AI at a problem. What problem are we actually trying to solve here? Does this task even need to exist in its current form? Is the release capacity usable, and where should it go? If you're just handing out licenses without asking these questions, honestly, you're not leading, you're just hoping. Local operational managers are the ones responsible for connecting the changed work to capacity and ultimately to outcomes. And the stakes are getting even higher. We're moving fast into the era of agentic AI. These are systems that go way beyond generative AI that just, helps you draft a quick document. Agents can actually coordinate multiple steps and interact with different systems. Think of tools handling end-to-end help desk requests or complex financial analysis. Task-level assistance changes how one person works, but agentic AI, that changes how work moves between entirely different teams.
This requires a massive paradigm shift. This quote really hits the nail on the head. Our question must not be merely whether an agent completes its assigned steps successfully. It must be whether the end-to-end service becomes better as a result. If you automate just one stage of a process, you might literally just be moving the bottlenecks somewhere else. A blazing fast referral generated by an AI agent is completely useless if the receiving end of your system isn't prepared to handle that massive spike in volume. Optimizing a single component without looking at the big picture, that can actually increase the pressure on your entire organization.
And our final section, Section 5, Sustaining Value in AI from Pilot to Scale.
So there is a really critical contrast leaders must understand when evaluating this stuff. During the pilot discovery phase, we usually rely on self-reported time savings. And hey, that's great for building initial excitement, but it is heavily plagued by recall bias and super uncertain baselines. People saying, I feel like I saved 10 minutes today. But to scale, we need scaled assurance. That means end-to-end baselines, measuring the total task effort, looking at rework measures, and tracking those downstream effects we just talked about. We need rigorous, proportionate evaluation to prove the technology is actually moving the needle on key metrics, not just making people feel a little bit faster.
The ultimate test for creating value is beautifully, brilliantly simple. Every single significant AI use case in your organization should be able to complete this exact sentence. We are using AI to change activity so that capacity becomes available to improve outcome. If you can't fill in those blanks, specifically the capacity and the outcome parts, you might have adoption. Sure, you might have activity, absolutely, but you cannot be confident that you have actually created any value. I want to leave you with a final, really powerful realization from our source material. Time saved is an input to change, not the outcome of change. That missing 43 minutes we talked about at the beginning, it's not some abstract prize waiting to be collected. It is a design and leadership choice. If AI saves your team time, but you cannot explain where that time went, have you really created value, or have you merely accelerated activity? Stop counting licenses, start intentionally redesigning your services, and make the conscious choice to convert efficiency into real value. So ask yourself today, where are your missing 43 minutes going? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.